So here we go. It's about to load. We're running at a lot of frames per second in post-production. We're going to start a new file called and beyond. I like the little eagle owl thing at the bottom. We're going to select some missions. I chose to launch and then get ground data from Kerbal. So here I decided to make something really simple. I barely want to really escape the atmosphere, not the atmosphere. I barely want to escape anything. I decide I want to rescue as many parts as possible on my craft. And that way I lose less money. And, I'm just paying for fuel, which is still fairly expensive. It's something like, oh gosh, I want to say it's like $1 million a pound or something, or 10 million a pound to put an astronaut up into space. So here we go. I'm putting some science modules on there. And we're going to alter the secondary engines. We're going to make it more aerodynamic by putting parachutes up on the boosters as well. Um, and here we go. Firing, it makes it up to about 5, 6, 7,000. Starts falling back down. It's falling back to Earth. Jebediah, what are you going to do? You're falling. I can see the drag. I can see the lift, but all you're doing is falling down. Okay, there we go. A lot of parachutes. We're going to accelerate down. Almost lands not too far from where it took off. There we go. Collect the science, collect the monies. Contracts were satisfied. New contract involves testing a booster. So what we're going to do is put more boosters up on the original ship. Spread them out so I can get to the science modules. Rotate them around so they point somewhat down. Lift them up a little bit. And try to make this as aerodynamic as possible by probably putting some chutes up on there. Make them all a little bit bigger. There we go. I had to make the upgrade to my launch pad so that I could do heavier vehicles. Alright, and let us fire the Mark II. We have all the science ready to go. Solid fuel is going to burn out pretty quickly, but we have a second round. We're going up nearly 3, 4, 5 times as high, maybe even higher. We didn't quite pierce the atmosphere. Parachutes for everything. And land. We're going to buy some technology here. I want to buy enough parts to make bigger rockets. Really, what I loved doing was space planes. I was never really good at it, but hopefully by going over a lot of the basics, rewatching a lot of my Scott Manley episodes that I loved so much, um, maybe I won't have to venture too far before I'm actually decent at space planes. So here we need to get this thing running. We're going to put a bunch of science on there, front and back, sides, um, additional parachutes as needed. And here I wanted to rescue as much of the craft as possible, so we're going to put legs on it. A lot of legs. But we're running out of space. We're running out of parts that we can use. So, more boosters. Still more boosters. Have to ditch a lot of parts. So I decide to reconfigure how I'm doing the legs. And pretty soon I'm going to realize that I'm over my max on parts, sadly. And that's when I found out I can't afford to upgrade that area either. So here we go. We gotta readjust the legs. And let us blast off. Soon. Maybe. Staging all fixed. Alright. This thing was shaky as hell to work with. But we get up pretty high before I decide that this is just not working. Need more fuel or more boosters or something. I didn't have a level shoot system. Alright, let's try it again. And go for getting the science ready. Get ready for blast. Here we really slowed down a lot. We do get up pretty high. Get our crew report and everything. But we have to get between a certain level of... We have to get within a certain speed within a certain time. So this didn't really work either. And I really just couldn't get this to fall the way I wanted. But we didn't lose a tremendous amount of money. We're going to scrap that, go in for another type of rocket. And I think here's where I discovered, hey, I have size reconfiguring I can do to the actual engine, or actual fuel tanks. I may or may not do it on this one. There we go. I don't do it on this one yet. I did notice with the liquid fuel oxidizer mix tanks, they did not like to attach in multiples. So I'd have to build one out and then bring it back out and apply it everywhere. It made keeping track of part counts a little more difficult. Anyway, here we have a really nice stack. We got some staging. None of these are really acting like real rackets at all because I'm holding on to all of them, which really you want to just ditch stuff as you go forward. Alright, so here I can test out this pretty soon. Nope. Ditched that plan. Went for another one. He goes up, he goes up. How high will he fly? Now, pretty much burnt myself out. This also was gonna probably crash pretty violently if it weren't for the drogue chute. But it lands, it's salvageable. Um, you know, we get most of our money back every time. I decide to test the parachute and a booster. Um, both had parameters that really weren't listed out until you accept the mission, and that part I'm not a big fan of. Alright, let's make it a lot of boosters and some more engines. Always going for that extra level of delta. Alright, let's blast this baby off. You know, fast forward, this burns like so quick. Alright, we're leaving at a high speed. We've used all our fuel. And this is when I discover that orbit doesn't really count. You know, just because you shoot out to an orbital distance doesn't mean you're actually in orbit. So here we play with falling back to Earth, play with the parachutes. We find out that I'm never going to slow down fast enough. Go back to the assembly. That's when I play with the size and find out, hey, why don't I just make all these bigger? More parachutes, a lot more fuel. We rebuild everything to be just bigger. Part count is still getting to us. I'm used to making planes and rockets that are in the hundreds of parts. Very complex, a lot of stuff inside of other stuff, really cheating space. And here I'm limited to less than 30 parts. On the other hand, there's all kinds of Reddit challenges out there where it's like get to space with 5 parts, or under 1 ton. It's impressive what they do. Here I am trying to circularize my orbit. I don't believe I pull it off this round. We get a lot closer. But it's not really until I get into heavy rocketry that I discover that I can actually finally do it. Here I decide to start a lot sooner, and I realize that my main engine has no thrust, so we start back over again. Do the same thing that we just did, except for now we're actually burning all engines. My speed is decreasing quickly. Now it's picking back up. Really, you have to get above like 20,000 kilometers or 20,000 meters, 2 kilometers, before the thrust starts to propel you at a higher acceleration. Also, the loss of mass really helped out with that too. However, loss of mass isn't always a good thing. Yes, it's easier to move when you have less mass, but I'm losing mass because I'm running out of fuel. And see, the furthest I got really close to circularizing, but not close all the way. So we're going to go for big right off the bat. This whole mission really is an exercise in futility. I was going down the philosophy of more delta V is better, but here I'm just wasting money on the fuel. I mean, unless I reload to assembly, but honestly, what I should be doing is focusing on what exactly my contract parameters are. And right now, one of them involves, testing a parachute, and I have to be a certain speed within, 13 to 16,000 meters. And so all this thrust really isn't going to get me to where I need to be. Blasting off, already starting to turn. burning fuel. And here we fight to circularize the orbit, but we're not going to have enough delta V. See, we're out, we collect, but ultimately we decide this just is not going to work. I think I do decide to full-on collect this one, test re-entry, blow up I think it was my central engine. Come in towards the sea, fast forward everything. And touchdown. Collect the vessel, lose some money. So here we decide, let's design the rocket specifically for the shoot challenge. It doesn't cost us to make a new schematic, a new anything. So we want legs, we want the parachutes, staging, check your staging. You always want your staging good. Alright, here we go. Blast off. We want more thrust, more thrust, more thrust. Kill it. And that's when I decide I put too much thrust in. Collect the science. As I fall back down, I want to slow my descent so that I'm within the 60, 180. There we go. Test the parachute. Fall, save as much power as I can. Lower the landing gear. Let all the chutes open. But I also don't want to wait forever to hit the ground, so we're going to open the last bit of chutes as we get closer, below 300. Open. And we lost all the legs. It opened a little too late. And buy more tech, and this is when I finally get, let's go for the heavy rocketry. Now, again, I'm more of a space plane guy, and I say that in regards to what I like, not what I'm good at. But let's scrap it all, start from scratch. And here I decided to try to make a rocket that rescues as many parts as possible. Now, this part is a little frustrating because I go through not a really good build. You know, I'm not great at this, but I do put in the effort to actually properly build a rocket. And it's not great, but every single part that is to jettison has the ability to be rescued. And instead, uh, it just deletes. It just goes away. So in the future, if I plan to do something as asinine as this, I'm going to have to literally ride the parts down and watch them land. It'll be time consuming, be worth it in the money, but we're also getting to the part of the money where how much of this we throw away maybe doesn't matter as much anymore. It's also very possible that the only way I'm going to be able to ditch all these parts safely is drag them all up with me until I hit orbit, which is going to burn a lot more fuel. And then, yeah, jettison each one slightly. Or, yeah, jettison each one at a time. And so they're all up in orbit. Gosh, I'm going to have to send up a drone part with each one if I do that, though. But anyway, and then blast them all back down to Earth. In fact, the only way that's going to work is with drone cores. Jettison them all, and then have maybe a tiny reserve of fuel. That did not work at all. Alright, I decided that the Jimmy legs on this is just not going to work. Eventually I decided to make them even bigger because I'm really getting no thrust here. So we'll start that over again. Oh, yeah, let's test the parachute systems on all these parts. And death. But with the miracle of going back without spam saving, we will just treat that like a simulation. And things are too heavy, so now I have to reduce fuel. Here we go. And we launch. And you're about to see a return of the shaky rockets. Oh, I miss struts. So we blast, we drag as much of it up into space as we can. Jettison those. Those had chutes that were deployed prior to dropping. But this gets us the closest we ever get to orbit. So, circularize the orbit. It's starting to work. All parachutes and then jettison. And here we actually do circularize the orbit. And there's the announcement, the alert. We did our mission. Now we need to find a good place to land. I think I chose water, but I can't remember. Oh no, I was trying to aim for the continent. And then I just decided I have all this extra fuel. Let's retrograde burn, slow things down, increase survivability of the parts. Now that part's falling ahead of us, but eventually it slows down because I deployed the chutes. See? There it goes. It's falling slower. We drop down to nearly just 200 before we drop. There we go. And right there on the shore, if I want to spend some time on the beach, like Sandra Bullock, I decide to look for the parts to rescue them, and they are nowhere to be seen. They're just removed from the game. And that part is, well, it's very frustrating because whole purpose of it was to increase the survivability of it. Anyway, that is the end of the episode. Please like, please subscribe, and eventually we'll just keep going up in the career. Thank you for watching. Take it easy.